Okay, next up we would like to talk about valence electrons. So valence electrons are the electrons occupying the last shell and so how this is typically described at the high school level, if you're using the planetary model, is we have our nucleus, and then we have all of these levels that can hold different amounts of electrons. The first one can hold 2, the next one can hold 6. It's 8, yeah. And so on and so forth. And so if we have, for example, carbon that has 4 electrons, then we'd have 2 in the first layer, and then we'd have another 2. Sorry, it has 6 electrons, so we'd have another 4 on this last shell. And so these 2 electrons, we don't count them as valence electrons because their shell is full and they're taken care of, is how you can imagine. And that's because they won't be participating in reactions when they occur, because it's only this last shell whose electrons will be participating typically. And so we would count the valence electrons for carbon to be 4. And so now let's do nitrogen, which is what we were asked for. The theory remains the same no matter which model you're using, because they're just trying to present you with the same information in different ways, some of which aren't accurate, such as the planetary model. Our nitrogen, we know it has 7 electrons in total, right? And so if we continue to use the planetary model, we'll have 2 on the first layer, and then we'll have 5 on this last layer. And so what that means is that on this last shell, we have 5 electrons, and so that is going to be our number of valence electrons. Next up, we're told an atom has an electron configuration of 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p2. How many valence electrons does this atom have? And so this is when you're using the more accurate model dictated by, of course, quantum mechanics. And so if we use that, and the reason why it stays the same is that you can consider the 1s2 as that first layer that only had 2 electrons. You consider the 2s2, 2p6 as that next layer that permitted 8. And then you just continue like that. And so if we have 2s2, 2p6, then we have 8 electrons here. And then lastly, we have 3s2, 3p2. And so that's also going to be another shell, and we have 4 electrons. And so we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the last shell. So you have 4 valence electrons. Alternatively, you can write it out in the more accurate way, where you write out the orbitals. So you have 1s, 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p. And so we'll have the 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p2. And so we see these ones are all filled up. This level isn't yet. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 electrons on it. So we have 4 valence electrons for whatever this is. If you'd like to figure out what it is, just count down the periodic table. So 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3p2, 3p2. So this is going to be silicon. And that's it for this question. Yeah.